I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. Every morning, I pass by the corner coffee shop on Maple Street. Nothing fancy, just the kind of place where the baristas are on a first-name basis with regulars, and the vinyl records playing softly in the background feel like a secret only you share. It's where I grab my usual black coffee, no sugar, no fuss. I'm almost invisible there, just a face in the quiet morning rush, a man who orders, pays, and leaves without much to say. Until the day she showed up. She's my neighbor, mid-40s, lives in the apartment just across the hall. I know because our paths have crossed before. She has this quiet way about her, like she's carrying a book in her mind no one else has been allowed to read. That morning, I caught her sitting alone at the window table, one hand wrapped around a chipped mug, eyes flicking out at the rain tapping against the glass. "Black coffee?" she asked, nodding when I placed my order. "Same as always." I blinked. How did she know? I don't even know if she's noticed me beyond the elevator hellos. "Yeah," I said, folding the napkin on my tray a little too deliberately, feeling my voice catch somewhere between curiosity and caution. She smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't try too hard, just edges up quietly on her lips. "I'm Maya," she said, as if that might settle whatever I wasn't saying. I told her my name. It was the kind of moment where everything feels smaller but also sharper, the pause between sounds, the breath you forget to take. Days after, I noticed the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she talked to the cashier, or how her eyes would flicker to the door whenever someone new came in. She didn't look at me like a stranger, but like maybe she was waiting for something I didn't know how to give. I don't do loneliness in big, noisy ways. It's quieter, like unsent texts waiting in my drafts, or pausing mid-thought because a memory I'm not ready to face creeps in. At night, I catch myself staring at my phone, finger hovering over the screen, then pulling back. It's easier to watch the seconds tick past than to risk the silence breaking for the wrong reasons. One evening, as I was locking my door after work, I saw her by the staircase landing, eyes downcast like she'd just remembered something important and sad. "It's too late for visitors," she said, voice soft but firm, like a rule she had to follow even if she didn't want to. I hesitated. "Then, invite me in anyway." She looked up, surprised, not because I asked, but because maybe I said it in a way that didn't expect an answer. For a moment, we just stood there, the hallway lights humming low overhead. Her fingers twitched against the railing, like she was fighting between shutting the door or opening it. She didn't say yes or no. Instead, she gave me that same quiet smile, the one that makes you want to stay even when everything else feels like it's slipping away. I walked away, the sound of my footsteps loud in the silence. My mind circled around the moment, replaying it like a song with missing notes. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Come upstairs." I'm not asleep yet. I didn't know if I should go, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. And somehow, that made all the difference. I stood outside her door for a moment longer than I meant to, the hallway quiet except for the faint hum of the building's old heater. When I knocked, the door cracked open just enough for a sliver of light, and that same quiet smile to peek out. Inside, the apartment smelled like worn books and chamomile tea, something soft, like a small kindness in the middle of a restless night. She motioned me in without a word. Maya led me to the small kitchen table where two mismatched mugs waited. She poured tea without asking if I wanted any, like she already knew. The steam curled between us, a fragile wall against the night's silence. "I used to have a garden," she said suddenly, her fingers tracing the chipped rim of her cup. "Before the divorce. My daughter loved it. She's grown now, in college. We don't talk as much as I'd like." The words landed quietly, almost swallowed by the room, but they changed the air around us. I felt the weight of something fragile, something she wasn't sure she wanted to let me see, yet she did. It made me think about the quiet parts of myself, the paused texts, the evenings spent scrolling through photos of friends I barely call anymore. There was a careful distance I kept, like walking on a thin ledge where one wrong step could break everything. Being here felt risky in ways I hadn't expected. Maya was older, worlds older than me. Our lives barely brushed the same pages. She was his mother's age, divorced, with history I could only guess at. And me, still fumbling with who I was supposed to be, standing at the edge of everything I hadn't figured out. I found myself watching how her hands moved, how they lingered on the table, how she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. There was something quietly electric about the way she filled the room with just being there. I don't usually do this, I admitted, breaking a silence that stretched a little too long. Just show up. Her smile was soft, a little sad. Neither do I. We sat like that for a while. Two strangers sharing the same space without needing to fill it with words. I reached out to steady a loose plate she'd been carrying, our fingers brushing briefly. The touch was light, almost accidental, but it sent a quiet pulse through my chest. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. I thought later, as I replayed the evening. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The next morning, I found Maya by the mailbox, her arms crossed over a sweater that looked too thin for the sudden chill. She glanced up when I approached, but didn't smile. Just a quiet nod. "I wasn't sure you'd come down," she said, voice low like she wasn't sure she wanted me here. I shrugged, looking away. "Guess I'm stubborn." She shifted on her feet, fingers fumbling with the strap of her bag. There was something in her hesitation, like she was holding back from something, or maybe holding back because of it. We walked together, the silence stretching between us. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in my throat. Her gaze flicked to mine for a second, then quickly away. Later that afternoon, I stopped by her apartment again, hoping for the easy rhythm we'd found. But the door was cracked open by someone else, her son. I froze just outside the threshold, the air thickening between us without a word. He gave me a quick, polite nod but stayed near the door, a silent reminder of the distance I wasn't sure I was allowed to cross. Inside, Maya's shoulders tensed. She didn't invite me in, just closed the door slowly, her back to me. I leaned against the wall, heart thudding louder than I wanted. I thought of the tea, the quiet smiles, the touch that lingered longer than it should. That night, I saw her standing at the window, the city lights casting shadows on her face. I stepped closer. Our eyes met, the silence heavier than words. I reached out, but stopped just short, fingers trembling, breath caught. She didn't pull away, but neither did she close the gap. We hovered there, on the edge of something neither of us dared to name. The park bench was cold, the kind of cold that seeps through your coat and settles deep in your bones. Maya sat beside me, her hands wrapped around a takeaway coffee cup, fingers white at the edges. We didn't talk for a while, just listened to the distant hum of traffic and the crunch of leaves underfoot. I caught her glance dart toward a man walking by, a younger guy, laughing a little too loud, brushing past with an easy charm that felt like a quiet stab. "I don't like him," she said suddenly, voice barely above the wind. "He comes around sometimes. Nothing serious. Just," her eyes found mine, raw and uncertain. "I don't want to lose what this is, even if it's not what it should be." The words hung between us, awkward and fragile. I wanted to tell her it was the same for me, that every time I saw her hesitate, pull away, I felt a knot tighten in my chest. But the confession got stuck. Instead, I shifted on the bench, hands trembling slightly. "I don't know if I'm ready for whatever this is," I admitted, voice small. "But I don't want to let go." She let out a breath, slow and steady. "We're messing with things that don't have rules." A silence stretched long and thin. I watched her eyes flicker, away, back, like she was fighting between fear and wanting to hold on. I almost reached out again. Almost. Instead, I whispered, "What if it's too late?" She didn't answer, just looked down at the fading coffee in her cup, and I wondered if she ever would. The next week felt different before it even started. Maya stopped answering my texts, the small good mornings, the pointless jokes about rain and coffee. When I knocked on her door one evening, the light inside was off. No sound, just the quiet hum of the hallway. I thought maybe she was busy or tired. But then, I saw him, her ex, standing outside, voice low and sharp against the cold. They spoke too close for comfort. I backed away without a word, the image burning itself behind my eyes. Days passed. I didn't show up at the coffee shop. I didn't make excuses. Instead, I sat with my phone in hand, a message half-typed and never sent. Are you okay? I told myself she needed space. Maybe it was for me, or maybe it was for her. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. And in the silence, all I had was waiting. The apartment smelled faintly of boiled water and old books. I stood near the kitchen counter, watching Maya pour 2 cups of tea, her hands steady but slow. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was heavy with everything we hadn't said. She didn't look at me as she set the cups down. You didn't come for a week, she said softly, almost like a question. I ran a hand through my hair. The words stuck somewhere between wanting to explain and knowing I couldn't. I wasn't sure if I should. Her eyes finally met mine, clear, tired. And now, I took a breath, the weight of it pressing in. I don't want to lose this. Or you. Even if it's messy. Even if it's wrong. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, just a small smile, a quiet acknowledgement, not a promise. She reached out, her fingers brushing mine, careful, almost tentative. Okay. It wasn't grand. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Years later, the corner coffee shop still stood, its chipped sign swaying softly in the morning breeze. I still order black coffee, no sugar, no fuss, but now Maya is usually there too, tucked into the same window seat by 8:47 a.m., a chipped mug in hand, and that quiet smile waiting for me. We don't need to say much. A glance, a shared silence, the soft clink of our mugs, tea for her, black coffee for me. The bench in the park is still there, too, where we sometimes sit and let the world pass by without pushing for more than what's real. We've learned to live in the pauses, in the things left unsaid. The moments stretched between us aren't full of grand declarations or perfect endings. They're made of quiet mornings, slow tea, and a touch that lingers just long enough. Sometimes, when the light hits the table just right, I catch Maya watching me, and I know without words, she sees me. And that's enough.